Welcome back to Indianomics. We have been speaking with Mr. S. Mundra, the Deputy Governor who is in charge of banking supervision. Well, Mr. Mundra, you know, we have discussed a lot about oversight committees and mechanisms of resolution. You know, there is still a set of institutions, even banks, who refuse to give their assent after a whole lot of people have given assent. For instance, in the SR Oil case, we have not yet got, we understand, approval from LIC, approval from PFC, approval even from IDBI. Now, how can this be, you know, this is not even a haircut case. How can this be speeded up? Any way you are looking at resolving it?
One, I would not like to comment on any individual cases, which I have always been telling you. But on a more general level or more philosophical level, and this is what I would say more as my individual perception, and which I have been mentioning earlier also. I think JLF mechanism as it stands today had all those provisions. Yes. The majority by number, the majority by amount, and which has also been modified from time to time as per the experience and the representation of the banks. There is also disincentive for those who are not falling in line. All those things are there. But as it happens in most of the cases, that people have found the clever method of being compliant but non-compliant. Okay. I think what we need to address is this particular part. And for that, to my mind, there are two requirements. One is there has to be a clearly board mandated policy that if their institution is a part of JLF, and then if JLF mechanism is emerging, concurrence or non-concurrence with that JLF structure should be either vested in the executive power, or if board wants to retain the power, then board should be prepared to meet at much frequent basis so that these things are not delayed. Number one, at that point of time. And number two requirement, that whatever structure has emerged has to be either clear yes or clear no. It cannot be a yes with rider. Okay. I think if these two things are put in place, I think most of the issues which we are discussing today may be addressed.
Who will put this in place? RBI has to, no?
Yeah, RBI has to put in place. So that is why an institutional view has to emerge on this. Okay. And there had been this also had been one of the point of discussion.
Okay. So let me get away from the NPA issue because there's so much.
Yes, I'll also be happy and relieved that.
We will try and revisit if we have time. But let me come to the other issues that are on the table, which is what you'll a recent circular that you all have given. Even for standard assets where there is a sign of stress, the board should put in a policy of higher provisioning. Yeah. Now, this obviously is preparing the banks for IFRS 9. Are we on track for IFRS 9 from April 2018?
Yes, till it is changed, it remains. Okay. So it is there. And I think circular itself is also quite clear in mentioning that whatever those provisions and the present rule-based regulations are prescribed are only minimum enough. It will always be good for the banks to proactively look beyond that. So that is what it is intended to be.
But IFRS 9 needs a lot more. So should we expect more circulars to ensure that bankers get ready for IFRS 9 April 18?
I think it has been a work in progress for a long time. So we can trace our journey back to right from 2015 with AQR, with the recognition of banks. So you would see that during this course of last 2 years, the provision level has already built up. Yeah. That was also in a sense preparing the system to move towards the new accounting standard. Plus, of course, this is one additional thing which has been. So, and I know that some of the banks, even within that, had already taken certain higher percentage. Some of the banks, for example, at substandard level, where the regulation prescribed 15%, but they have been doing 20%. Yes. So some of these resilience were already being built in. So I think what is important is to very clearly communicate. Maybe it's kind of again and again awakening call. Not that the banks are not aware of this requirement, not that banks are not aware that they have to move to the new accounting standard. But I think these are a kind of, I would say, a positive nudging which you can do. Okay. So if someone has slightly got forgetful, again gets a wake-up call.
But in all this, retained profits will fall because you have to provide more. So capital again becomes an issue. What are the discussions with the government on capital? Are they going to provide more, or is there a serious thought about recapitalization bonds?
See, whichever way you look at it, ultimately all it boils down to the requirement of capital, which is not negotiable. And and I think government is quite clear. There had been a lot of discussions, a lot of data sharing on this, and you must have seen that Finance Minister had also not once but several times he has mentioned that if there is a need, government would provide the capital. But what we have to understand that only government providing the capital is not the only thing. Capital has to come, that is very clear. But capital can come from several sides. And to my mind, rather than always just focusing that government has to put a lot of money, would not be the right thing to do. So capital, on very fundamental level, there are two ways. Either capital can be augmented or capital can be conserved. Now, individual institutions first have to take that view, that how much they can expect the augmentation capital and how much they can look into their business to conserve the capital. Once that is done, for augmentation, yes, the majority owner has to provide, other owners can provide, you can dispose of your non-core assets, you can try to exit from some of the business lines. So I think each bank will have to look at all the possibilities and then accordingly decide.
But recap bonds are not discussed?
At least I am not aware of any such discussion if they have taken place.
Now the other way in which the government has, or even in fact the Reserve Bank in the prompt and corrective action says, for the weakest of banks you will recommend even amalgamation. But is there an amalgamator, someone who can accept an IOB?
If you look at the PCA framework, there are two parts of it. One is the mandatory action and other are the discretionary action. Some of these are discretionary action. If it is put there, it means not necessarily that this is the only thing which is to be done, but yes, it is something which is very much on the card. So I think these things will depend on very individual cases and how the circumstances do take place. There had been instances of amalgamation in Indian banking system in the past. It's not that it is for the first time. And even otherwise, on a more general and philosophical level, we are talking about the consolidation in the industry. So, I think within that broad framework, all the possibilities should be taken as being available and not discarded.
Okay, but should we expect consolidation anytime soon? Say, in this year, something like that?
I think you demand timeline for everything. Right now one consolidation is going on. Yes. You know. And I think you have also witnessed that this consolidation, coming into shape, it takes its own course of time. And that too where it was a case which was very different. It was a kind of half consolidated entries to be fully consolidated. So I think we have to be realistic in that perspective. But what is important is to decide a broad framework, firm up the mind. Once you do that, then other things are a matter of detail, which can take care of themselves.
So in 2005, the breaking story was Bank of India and Union Bank. Remember, Varghese and Venugopal have just met. That used to be the flash. That's why, some homework has been done. That's why I'm asking you if something can be expected sooner rather than later.
That is why that phrase was invented. No, there are many a slip between the cup and the lip. So.
We need to take a break on that issue, but we have lots more questions for Mr. Mundra on a whole host of areas that come under his supervision. Back in a minute.